UFP, the United Federation of Podcasts.
Infinite diversity.
Live long and prosper, and welcome to Infinite Diversity, a Star Trek Universe podcast here on the United Federation of Podcasts Network. I'm your host for today, Robot Brandon Shabitella. Joining me are my co-hosts, Robot Chrissie and Robot Justin. How are you doing today, Chrissie?
So, yes, I'd be sitting on a beach somewhere sipping jippers or something. I'm not sure what a jipper is. No one's ever explained it.
Well, it's got star fruit in it.
That's true. We know that much. So, yes.
Excellent. Justin, are you excited? I'm going to talk about your favorite Star Trek.
I'm going to sidestep that question for now and say we prefer to be called androids and not robots. Thank you.
Oh.
Yes. Well, I'm from Canada.
Do you see my human-looking face?
People.
I'm more an android than a robot. What's that about being from Canada?
I'm from Canada, and we do nothing but offend people, and I'm not going to apologize. I'm going to call you a robot.
I mean, as long as we're offending people, man, Canadians are the rudest people in the world, aren't they? No, really,
and
just
the way
kidding.
their floppy
Please,
heads with the
don't write us about that.
I was so hoping. I messaged Mike McMahon before we started recording this year, and I was so hoping to get a response from him because I still think it's the case. But I wanted to find out for sure. Can you confirm if the escape artist takes place post I Mud? Because I believe it does,
and I don't care. Ooh. Anyway, sorry.
So that's my thought process on it.
Coming on strong.
Guys, Justin doesn't like this one.
Yeah,
so Justin.
I'm playing. The role of Brandon Shabitella is being played today by Justin Oser for this episode.
Justin,
yes.
Tell us your first thoughts, initial impressions, first impressions on this episode.
Well,
why don't you like this one?
Here's what I've decided to do. I'll tell you a little bit about why I don't like it, but then I'm going to flip it around a bit. Okay, so when I first saw this episode, and we've talked about the first three short treks, I loved Runaway, I really loved Calypso, and I loved The Brightest Star. I thought it was really great, so I was like, okay, great. Now the fourth one is with Mud, and I have a bit of a complicated history with the Mud character. I don't like the TOS or animated series Mud. I think he's creepy, and I just don't like to see him in any episodes, and I don't think he's funny at all.
He's not a great character.
He's not a great character in there.
He's
right?
not a great character
okay.
in TOS.
So that's how I felt about it, right? And then going into Discovery, I was pretty leery, like, I don't like this character. But you know what? He's in Choose Your Pain. He's in Magic to Make the Sanest Man Go Mad. And I love I love Rainn Wilson as Harry Mudd in those episodes. I think there's something about his portrayal that's really compelling in the way that he plays off of the Starfleet characters. I really got into the character, and I surprised myself, right? So I was like, okay, I have this complicated history, but I like that. And then going into the escape artist, I was like, okay, let's see what this is. And honest to goodness, like, and listeners who've heard me a lot know that I really like the vast majority of Star Trek. But the escape artist, when I saw it, came off to me as just like a lead balloon. It's just like, it wasn't funny. It wasn't working. It was painful for me to watch. Like I wasn't into it. And I think part of it might be Mike McMahon's writing, because like we've talked about Lower Decks, 80% of those episodes I don't like. So there's something about like Mike McMahon created stuff. And I was rewatching it today, and I'm like, it's kind of okay. I don't dislike it as much, but I didn't get anything out of rewatching it. So I'm going to turn it around and say, Brandon, what is it you really like about this? Because I really want to know, because I seriously dislike this episode.
I think the pacing of this is absolutely perfection. The Rainn Wilson's portrayal of Harry Mudd is spot on. Like, Magic to Make the Sanest Man Go Mad is the second best episode of season one. I still think Lethe is the best episode of season one.
It's a great episode. I will agree with that. Yeah.
It is so good, and I love his portrayal of Harry Mudd. I think he's perfect in that role.
Mm-hmm.
And he continues that role so well in this one. He directed this episode, so he had full control over how this was going to appear on screen. But the timing of it, like when he's like, I've never been in a situation like this before, and he kind of like phases out, and we get this whole flashback, and at the time we don't quite know what's going on, right? But I mean, the timing of that is great, and it happens multiple times in this. I think that the lines where he's trying to convince people are absolutely hilarious. Like the scene when he's being led around by that short little alien.
Yes.
Like, I don't know, the comedy really works for me in that scene. The comedy really works for me with the two Orions. But mostly it's the timing of everything and how it's directed. I didn't see the twist coming that Harry Mudd was until the very end when they showed the woman costume on the ship, right? But I mean, like, I didn't see that twist coming until right at the very end, so I thought it was a really good twist. I thought the guest actor of the Tellarite was fantastic. I thought he did a really good
I
job.
think that's Harry Judge that plays a lot of Tellarites on Discovery.
And I loved that this felt like an honest to goodness Harry Mudd scheme.
Okay.
It felt like a really good, successful Harry Mudd scheme. And I believe this takes place post-Mudd. He left the planet finally. He came up with this idea. He knew there was warrants for his arrest, so he made a whole bunch of himself and came up with this way to make money on the side. And I don't know. I think it's a lot of fun. And to me, this opened up what short treks could be. And this is what I wanted to see more out of short treks, because in the second episode, we got like a nobody character that we'd never seen before. And then in this one, we got a minor character. We got an episode dedicated to a minor character that we'd only briefly seen in a couple of episodes. Okay. So this totally tickled my fancy for what could come in Star Trek short treks, which I don't think they lived up to in the second season as much, but that's fine. So anyways, I love this episode a whole heck of a lot.
It's really interesting to hear that, because for me, there's just something about like the comedy and the timing that feels very forced to me. Like, to me, when I watch it, I just like, I see it coming and I'm like, it doesn't work for me. So it's just a matter of like opinion or perspective. For me, it feels like very forced. I think Harry Judge as a Tellarite is the best part of it, and Rainn Wilson as Mudd feels a lot more forced here than he does in the episodes in season 1 of Discovery, I think. So anyway, but Chrissy, what do you think?
I enjoyed it. I also thought that those flashbacks were flashbacks and not the experiences of other iterations of Harry Mudd. And and it does feel like a very Harry Mudd scheme. You could very easily picture, the Kirk and crew running into him with all of those and saying, "Oh, you took all the androids off of the planet and you turned them into yourself," and it works perfectly. It does the humor. I feel like it does the humor the right way. It reminds me of the episode of X-Files, Jose Chung's From Outer Space. The one where there's the guy who's writing the book.
One of the best episodes of the series.
I love that. And this reminds me of that, in that it takes everybody, or it takes the characters it's dealing with and kind of cranks them up a little bit. And just, it almost makes them a parody of themselves, but at the same time you can see exactly what's going on as something that person might do.
It's pretty interesting, because I think one of the reasons why Mudd works for me in season 1 of Discovery is because he's playing off of someone like a Lorca character, or like the crew on Discovery. I feel like it works really well for him to play against Starfleet characters. And because most of this time he was playing off of this Tellarite and like telling his own stories, some reason that just didn't work for me. I don't know, like, because I've tried to put my finger on it, because I've seen this episode like 4 times, and each time it's felt like it just doesn't work. I mean, The Escape Artist is probably one of my least favorite things in all of Star Trek, to be honest with you guys. So I don't know how much more I can say, except that like it just didn't work for me. And I'm wondering like what listeners out there might feel the same way, because I know when I saw the reaction to this, lots and lots of people loved this episode. And I felt like one of the few weird people out there that really didn't work for. So
it could very well be that it's the Mike McMahon comedy. Like, I don't like a lot of comedy myself. Like, I watch Family Guy and I watch Simpsons. I think they're funny. I like Lower Decks a lot. I think it's really funny. But I mean, like, when we discuss Lower Decks, and I'm sitting here discussing it as a part of Star Trek because they're sitting here and trying to tell me that this is canon. I'm like, no, man, there's a whole hell of a lot of problems when you're trying to feed me the line that this is canon and continuity in universe. I got a whole lot of problems with that. I just want to sit here and enjoy it, and it is a lot of fun. And there is a lot of fun that can happen when you're poking fun at Star Trek. Because there's a lot of very silly things in Star Trek that you can poke fun at, and it's okay to do that. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I loved Futurama so much when it first came out, is because it's sitting there tongue-in-cheek poking fun at the genre that I love. And they did a very good job of it. And I think that Lower Decks does a very good job of that as well. But it could simply be comedy. Like, aside from that, I don't watch a lot of comedy. Mr. Bean is the height of comedy, and nothing will ever surpass
Mr. Bean is hilarious. I'll agree.
Yeah, Mr. Bean is hilarious. Absolutely.
I'm going to say he's the height of comedy, but he's wonderful.
He's wonderful, yeah.
You take that back, Chrissy.
What about Kids in the Hall? Come on, you're Canadian.
I do not like Kids in the Hall. I do not like Kids in the Hall at all.
All right.
Yeah. But like comedy is such like a subjective thing, right? Because like for me, the Mike McMahon stuff doesn't work. It works for you. And we'll talk about this in a few weeks. But for me, I think The Trouble with Edward is hilarious. And I know, Brandon, you really don't like it. Like the comedy of that doesn't work for you. But for me, like I like that absurd kind of comedy, like something that is just so insane that it makes me laugh because it surprises me at how crazy it is, right? But I actually tend not to like the stuff that is trying to poke fun at the genre itself or the thing that it's a part of. Maybe that's one of the reasons why I don't like Lower Deck. I feel like it's trying to poke at Star Trek in a way that doesn't feel like it's in the right spirit to me. So that's interesting.
I like my humor dark. I tweeted out today, I saw the funniest thing that I'd seen in a while, and it was a picture of a rabbit, and it said, "Sorry, kid, I'm the ether bunny." And he was like putting a cloth over the kid's face, and I'm like, oh, that is just priceless. But I like my humor on the darker side.
I know what my nightmares will be about tonight.
So, I don't know. Anyways.
It's interesting.
That's good.
Canon-wise, I mean, like, whatever. It's just a fun little episode. I mean, like, whatever. It's just fun. I mean, I just enjoy it for that simple fact. So, and I'm glad that we've got it. I don't want a Mud TV show, but I'd totally love to see another Mud short. I mean, I think that'd be a lot of...
And I totally dread another Mud short.
Listeners, remember last week about canon and the importance of continuity? Just saying.
And that's why I think it's... you know why I think this is post I'm Mud, not just because of the robots and the androids or whatever, but one of them is wearing the outfit that Mud is wearing in that episode, right? The blue kind of piratey looking thing with the dongles on it or whatever you want to call
Epaulets.
Sure. And I'm not a fashion person. I don't know anything about clothes.
I mean, later on, that's just an old shirt of his, but yeah.
But, I mean, isn't that to me, that's fantastic if this is post I'm Mud. Because that's post season 2. We've still got this is basically the Discovery. It's just another ship. Right? Because we don't get a good look at it, but it looks like
it's the same set.
Whatever the class of the Discovery ship is. They're still wearing those uniforms, right?
Yeah. Which
ties into the novels of how those uniforms were left select to Constitution-class ships. You know, so that's kind of fun, but I don't know. Anyways, I don't know. I think it opens up a lot of fun if this is post I'm Mud. So
sure.
There's no reason to think it isn't.
Yeah, I think it is. So, excellent.
Wow, is this the shortest?
In the meantime,
is this like the shortest episode we've ever had? Is that all we have for discussion?
I have one thing I want to bring up.
It's because I limited my criticism to like a couple minutes. I'm not going to go on for half an hour about it. But I got
nothing to play off of here, Justin. That's why it's so short. You're not giving me anything to work with here.
Okay, let me see how I can challenge you here. Let's come up with a question completely out of left field. How long does Harry Mudd live? How far into the future does he live?
Well, I think we're going to see him in Discovery Season 4 myself.
You think so? Maybe Strange New Worlds. Maybe Picard. Maybe he's still around.
We're definitely going to see him in Strange New Worlds. We are absolutely going to see him. You know who else we're going to see in Strange New Worlds? We're going to see Laurel and Ash. Right?
That's quite possible.
We're absolutely going to see these people in Strange New Worlds.
That would be cool. And you know what? I look forward to seeing Mud in Strange New Worlds because I think somehow that would work for me like it did in Discovery Season 1. Well, yeah. I don't know.
It'd be really cool if we saw Kor, Koloth, and Kang.
Yes, it would.
That would be interesting.
There's no reason we wouldn't. The timing is appropriate.
Let's just talk for half an hour about what we want to see in Strange New Worlds, shall we? No.
I want to see Scotty making his homebrew.
Yeah.
Maybe. As long as he's doing more than just drinking. He needs to do some engineering on like that Vulcan's Glory novel. Okay.
We could get Chris Doohan to play him.
Vulcan's Glory is a good novel. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So it's in this comedic episode, there is one bit of seriousness that is dropped, and I think it's worth discussing.
Okay. All right.
When Harry is trying to convince the little short alien that has him on the chain to let him go, he starts talking about a resistance against the Federation and how they're imperialist. I think he says it to the Tellarite too.
Yeah, something about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Federation, imperialist or not?
That is an interesting question.
I think it's complete nonsense out of Harry Mudd's mouth. Like he's just rambling and coming up with
I recognize that.
It is.
The question is
it's a general question for us to think about.
For him to think that would be useful to him in that context, there has to be an idea of the Federation being imperialist. Otherwise, people would just be like, "What?"
I would think surely, in a lot of maybe Romulans and Klingons would feel like, in certain eras, the Federation is just out to get as much territory as they can, but they're doing it in this way that makes it seem like it's to everybody's advantage, but they would probably say it isn't, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So I think it's an interesting idea.
Yeah, it's whatever your point of view is, right? You either agree with what they're doing or you don't, right? So
yeah. Well, you can agree with what somebody's doing and still say that's imperialist.
Sure.
To some extent. I mean, if you're pro-imperialism.
Okay, so Chrissy, I feel like I have somewhat of a grasp, but I feel like I need it defined. How would you define imperialism?
That's a good question. The way I would define it is that you have a society that is seeking to make its culture the dominant one in an area where it wasn't already.
I think,
and then also, that would also involve warfare, potentially enslavement, that kind of thing.
Okay, I mean, I think just as a general idea, not doing it through war or enslavement, I think the Federation does do that. They go and meet warp-capable civilizations, and they're like, "Hey, how's it going? We've got this Federation. Are you interested?" And if they are interested, there are certain things they have to conform to in order to be part of the Federation, and that might change their culture, right? So in that way, you could say the Federation is imperialist, but at the same time, like, there is such a negative connotation to that, because when we think of imperialism, we think of, the British Empire at its height, or that kind of thing, or some of the European colonialists that did some terrible things in Africa and Asia and Australia and all those kinds of places, right? And the Americas and all over. But if you're defining it just as like they really want to spread their culture to more places, they kind of do, right?
Well, there's a spread or cause that culture to dominate. There's a line there between those two.
But I'm sure that from the Federation's point of view, they see what they do as good enough that like everybody in the galaxy should be part of it, right?
Well, yeah, there should be a McDonald's that serves Coca-Cola in Moscow and in Beijing, right? Of course, because everybody loves McDonald's and Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Brandon,
there's a reason they
ahead.
play cricket in South Africa and in India. And that they don't play a game that was traditional in their area before the British took over. So,
but Brandon,
my interpretation of imperialism is conquering, going in and taking over something by force. That's how I would define imperialism.
Oh, you can have soft imperialism too. That's where you have
more like
the McDonald's in Beijing. Yeah,
but that is not how I would define it, though, myself. Okay. Like, you ask how you define it. So, to me, like, this does raise an interesting question. I mean, like, I guess we could probably we're going off way on a tangent here, but it's like, okay, so we're the Federation. Hey, buddy, how's it going? We want to be friends with you. Look what we have. Do you want to join it? You have to follow these rules. Now, I don't interpret that what the Federation does as forcing them to change. They've just got like a bare minimum where they're like, okay, you don't have slavery on your world.
Yeah.
Do you have slavery? sorry, you can't be until you get rid of that. Because I think at a
Yeah.
certain point, societies on a whole will hopefully get to the point where they realize slavery is a bad thing, and you need to get to a certain level.
Yeah.
Right? And they're not saying you have to change your culture. You're still able to worship as you worship.
Yeah.
Right? Unless slavery is a part of your worshiping, then I'm sorry, then you're not there, right?
So how about this though? What if the Federation comes by and they say, okay, great, you have a united government, you don't have slavery, whatever. We do have this thing called the Prime Directive that works this and this and this way. And what if that culture is like, I think that doesn't make any sense, because you could interpret it in such a way that you could let an entire pre-warp civilization die from a disaster. Like, I don't want to be a part of that. No, you need to absolutely, like, so there could be, I think, some area of give and take there where you could kind of see it either way, but being part of the Federation, you'd have to change how you feel about things, right?
But I think that opens a lot of questions, and I think, like, I'm not saying that I believe this thing, right? But I mean, like, this is a question that I think a lot of people are having right now, where it's like, they've got this idea, this is what the United States is, and if you're coming here, you need to do this. You need to speak English when you come to the United States. You need to do this, right? But I mean, like, with something like this, if that does open that question. If I create something and a whole bunch of people want to be a part of that, and they want to be a part of the vision that I've created, if you want to be a part of this, then this is the vision. Do you want to be a part of this or not? Right? Like, that's a valid question if the Federation creates something like this. And I mean, that opens up a whole can of worms of, it's like, well, if you're going to come to my country, then you must conform to these things, right? I mean, like, that does open up a lot of questions on Earth. But if they create something and their question is, do you want to join this or not? Then it's up to that other species to join or not. And it's like, these are what we do.
Yes.
Do you
Unless
like that?
they have dilithium.
Absolutely. And there are numerous examples of the Federation where they bend their will, right? Absolutely. And that's because also, the Federation has corrupt people at the top, like every type of organization.
Yeah, so. But that could even... That could even happen if they're not corrupt. I mean, it could be that they're thinking like, okay, let's send out a diplomat to there. They have dilithium, and we could say, hey, you have this resource. We can help you out with your improvement in society in exchange for the dilithium. Also, it seems like you're close to Romulan space, and we could help to defend you. Like, you could do things in such a way that you're not corrupt necessarily, but you have some kind of soft threat almost that's unspoken, like, hey, we could defend you or not. We could, improve your planet with this technology or not. You just have to be part of the Federation, give us some of your dilithium. Our starships would have to be there to defend your border. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there could be a certain way in which it just kind of can creep in that way or feel like an unspoken threat, right?
Yes.
And that's exactly it, because that's what we did to South Korea and Vietnam.
Right, but if we pause and we look at it from the Star Trek vantage point, like the biggest example of this would be the Klingons, okay? So the Klingons, they've got an alliance with them. So they've got a lot of the things that they like post-Kittimer, right? They've got a lot of things that they agree on, but they don't agree on everything. And so they are allies, they trade with each other, they work together, but they don't force the Klingons to become a part of the Federation because they never will. They're just too different, right?
No, that's true. But the Klingons are able to do that because they have an empire that has a number of worlds. I think if it's one world, it's tougher to just say, hey, we have this alliance, because there's actually maybe not much you can give in return. You'd have to be part of the Federation to or maybe not. But I think even so, like, if it was one planet as part of that alliance, surely as part of that, you'd have to have a Federation starbase nearby or have Federation starships. Like, this could change. I'm just saying it could change things in a way because there is unequal power going on there. The Federation is very powerful.
I'm very excited about this next question I want to ask you guys, okay? Because this is the thing about the Prime Directive.
Sure,
so let's say, so here we are, right? Like, so the Federation has expanded, and all these planets are within its reach, right? Because they've built their boundaries, right? There's this planet here that's not ready yet, but this one just past it is. Therefore, our boundaries have now expanded to there. And the Federation has the Prime Directive. We will not interfere because we need to let this civilization develop on its own, and we can't interfere with it. And I understand what they do. However, when that race, that species, finally gets to the point of space travel, they can no longer advance to their potential because they are now within the boundaries of something that's limiting what they can do. What if that natural, like if the humans didn't exist, what if that species' natural path was to take over the galaxy, right? Or become the Federation of its own way, right? Ooh, that's a very interesting question.
Yeah, no, that is
Actually, the Federation would now be inhibiting them.
Yeah, it actually makes me think of the Voyager two-parter Year of Hell, because it's like, what if these things change, then maybe this is dominant or that's dominant, or but you're right, and it doesn't get addressed quite as much that there may be pre-warp civilizations within the boundaries of the Federation that they have to leave alone. But it's part of that, and right, when they get space travel, they're like, oh, there's this Federation, I guess we're inside the boundaries, but there is also precedent, because even on Earth, you do sometimes have like a country within a country, right? Like its own sovereign country that's completely surrounded by another country. So maybe it could be its own independent thing. But then again, like if you have warp travel, like you have to worry about trade and space lanes and all that kind of stuff. So you'd have to be dependent on them. So it's a really interesting question.
But what if that planet within the Federation's boundaries comes up with the Borg too?
Yeah.
Well, then you have to destroy them.
Just so you know that with this discussion here, I really hope The Escape Artist is now your favorite Star Trek.
It is not, but I love that it's led to this discussion, so I will acknowledge its existence is worth something. But no, this is because when I saw this, I was like, okay, maybe we'll just talk about this for a few minutes. I'll complain about it. You'll tell me why you love the episode, and there won't be any like deep questions. But we did come up with some deep questions, which is good.
Thank you,
and I
Chrissy.
really thank you, Chrissy. And I really am interested what
Thank you for talking about it.
I'm interested what listeners think, because like Discovery in The Escape Artist and maybe a little bit in what Takuvma was talking about early on in Discovery has kind of skirted the edge of talking about whether the Federation is imperialist. I mean, also it seemed like they maybe were going more that direction in Beyond, but it didn't quite work that way in Star Trek Beyond. But like it hasn't been fully. I mean, maybe you could say in Deep Space Nine it's addressed somewhat, because you see things more from the perspective of a Quark or a Garrick that are kind of like
Bajor.
Yeah, or Bajor,
or a
like that.
Cisco.
Yeah,
it's easy to be a saint
in paradise. Yeah, but we're out.
Yes,
that's also one of the reasons why DS9 is one of the greatest series, because you are outside of the Federation, so you can see that perspective on a day-to-day basis, and that's really cool and really interesting. But yeah, it's like that conversation Quark and Garrick have, like the Federation's like root beer, right? Like
it's insidious.
It's just really insidious. So I feel like I would love to have more exploration of that, and I feel like to a certain extent, as much as I love what we've gotten in most of Star Trek, I feel like being on a starship, a Federation starship all the time, is limiting. Actually, I'm looking forward to Prodigy for that reason, because it's kind of outside of that, but I love Deep Space Nine because it's on a station, it's outside the Federation, all these people are coming together. I hope somewhere in the future we have another like Starbase based series, because it's really, really fascinating what can happen in that. But just about every other series is on a starship, which can limit it. Anyway.
Maybe the big announcement, now it would be last week when you guys are listening to this, was that they're turning Vanguard into a series. Great minds, Brandon.
Yes, let's do it.
That would be cool. I have some issues with Vanguard, but I did like it overall. But that's a whole other discussion. But no, like, but even Vanguard books are cool because it's on a station. You see all this stuff, and it's not part of the Federation. It's kind of on the frontier, like DS9. And let's get more of that. But I don't know if I have much hope for ever getting another like station-based show again. Maybe DS9 was like a real fluke, and thank God it happened because it's amazing. But I don't know if it'll ever happen again.
Come on, DS10.
DS10.
Yeah.
It's in the 32nd century. It's DS, 1958 or something. Anyway.
No, I agree. I don't think we're going to see something along that line, because the social and political situation of the post-Cold War era is what that is, and we're past that now.
It could be.
So,
although I could see some projecting further into the future, because I hope we keep getting Star Trek for the rest of the century. Like maybe in the future when you have colonies on the moon and Mars, and maybe there will be an orbiting space station, and maybe that would be inspiration for having another Star Trek station-based show. yeah, let's get that going.
Yes, that sounds fantastic.
Excellent.
But yeah, cool. Well, that was great. Thank you. This was very enjoyable for the part that I didn't have to complain about the escape party.
Justin, where can people find you when you're not dressing up as a woman bounty hunter?
Have you looked in my closet for what I have for outfits? Anyway, yeah, it was an interesting choice. You can find me on Twitter. I'm at TrekFan4747, where I tweet about nothing but Star Trek. And you can find me in our Facebook group, Federation Council Chambers.
Chrissy, where can people find you when you're not trying to sell me a cudgel?
All right, yes. You can find me in the threads for our episodes in the Federation Council Chambers on Facebook, and on Twitter, I am the Goddess Livia, that is TheGoddessLivia, and there I tweet about Star Trek history and leftist politics. You can also follow my work in history by liking the Facebook page my fellow historian partner Jason and I run, and that is History with the Szilagys, and that's spelled Szilagys. And there we post interesting history stories and links to our own work when we have a chance to write our own work.
Excellent. And as for me, you can find me on Twitter at Brandon Matella. You can find me here on the network with a show called Franchise Fatigue, which is all about movies, remakes, and sequels. And we're just finishing up our series on RoboCop. And you can find me on a show called Good Evening, an Alfred Hitchcock podcast, where my friends Chris and Tom and I cover all of Hitch's films in chronological order. United Federation of Podcast Network is home to many different podcasts. We've got Franchise Fatigue, as I said, Trek Pod, which is with Tony Robinson, interviewing Trek celebrities and people that have worked on the shows. General Quarters is a military-based podcast with Ken Tripp, Abby Ambrose, and Travis Kreisman. Amy Nelson and Patrick Devlin host All Good Things, covering all Star Trek. Rhea Papagiorgio, Kevin Scharf, Amy Nelson, and Joe Keegan cover TNG only on board the Galaxy Class podcast. Mickey's Marvels has Chris Tribuzio, Patrick Devlin, and new co-host Casey Pettitt, and they talk all things Disney, Marvel, and Star Wars and whatnot. And last but not least, we've got everything Arrow on Always Hold On to Arrow with Lance Laster and Kavante Chillis. Thank you so much for tuning into Infinite Adversity. Thank you to our executive producers, Ken Tripp, Tony Robinson, and Zach Moore. Thank you to Zach Tripp for the wonderful theme music, and Tony Robinson for awesome show art. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, and please subscribe. You can also support us on Patreon at patreon.com/UFPEarth. If you want to reach out, you can find the network on Twitter at UFPEarth, or our show specifically at IDIC Podcast. You can also talk about any and all of our shows in our Facebook group, and that group is called the Federation Council Chambers, and you can even email us at infinitediversity@ufp.earth. On our next episode, we'll be talking about Season 2, Short Trek episode Q&A. Until then, Jippers on a Beach.
This has been a production of MTMR Media Works.